Hello and welcome back to History Adulan. Today we are going to begin with 8th standard third lesson, ruling the countryside. In the previous chapter we studied about trade to territories, and in that we learned how company became Diwan in Bengal. After becoming Diwan on 12th August 1765, company got whole right to trade duty free in Bengal. This gave them enormous wealth from Nawabs of Bengal. Company was financially self-sufficient and could finance the trade and maintain army navy in India. Same time they decided to increase their source of income, and this was done through the collection of new revenue and assessment system. Basically, India is an agricultural country. Since Britishers decided to concentrate for income source on the rural India, that is the countryside. Let's see what was the situation of company in India before they became Diwan in Bengal. They used to trade with India with the gold and silver and the cash amount they were receiving from England. But after gaining control over Bengal, England decided to stop the financial aid to the company, and company had to manage all the finances on their own. This is the reason forced them to think of new options for the income sources, and that's why they concentrated now for income source on rural India, that is the countryside. This had happened through a collection of revenue and assessing system. India, right from its ancient time, had been a self-sufficient agrarian country, and Britishers took this as an opportunity to levy several taxes in India and earn income through the revenue collection. To meet new challenge, company developed own revenue collection and assessment system in Bengal. They could now buy fine cotton, silk cloth at a very cheap rate. This earned them good revenue. Now, Bengal could finance the purchase of goods and export. But in 1770, Bengal was hit by devastating famine, in which 10 million people died, that is 1/3 population of the state was wiped out. Soon, Bengal economy was facing a deep crisis. This forced East India Company to find out some way out for the economic crisis arrived. So, they thought there is a need to improve agriculture in Bengal. Company introduced permanent settlement, a revenue system in 1773. This was devised by Governor General Charles Cornwallis. Rajas, talukdars were recognized as jamindars, and they were responsible to collect revenue from peasants and villagers. Under this system, revenue amount was fixed. But as agriculture flourished, company thought to increase the revenue. That's why they thought of another option. Company ordered jamindars to pay more amount. Jamindars failed to pay since they lost their vast lands in auction to the company. Some jamindars raised rent on peasants. To pay the rent, he had to often take loans from moneylenders at high interest rate. If he failed to pay loan, he was evicted from the land that he had cultivated for generations. Because of these circumstances, East India Company devised a new system of revenue. Company needed more money to meet its expenses. Englishman Hart Mackenzie devised this new system in 1822 called Mahalwari system. Mahal is a revenue estate which may be village or a group of village. Village headmen were given responsibility to collect revenue. Now, there were no zamindars as an intermediator working for the company. Under Mahalwari system, there was no fixed tax. It varied, there was a flexibility, and it was revised from time to time. This system was popular in North India. After successful implementation of revenue policy in North India, company shifted its attention to the south. There were no traditional zamindars in South India, and lands were directly owned by the people or Rayat. Captain Reed devised new revenue policy on small scale after the war with Tipu Sultan. This was known as Rayat War or Rayatwari. Rayat means peasant or a farmer, and Wari meaning tax. A tax on farmer, Rayatwar or Rayatwari. This was further developed by Thomas Munro, who was a governor of Madras, and this was implemented for full of South India. Here, revenue was directly collected from the farmers without any mediator. So the major difference between permanent settlement and Munro system is in permanent settlement, zamindars were collecting, while in Munro system, the taxes were collected directly. When company stopped receiving the funds from mother country England, that day onward, they started implementing new revenue policies in India. And since there was not all well amongst the native Indians, company was driven by a desire to increase taxes from time to time. Since peasants were unable to pay high taxes, this made riots fled the countryside and villages were deserted. Life of common people in India became miserable. When company became Diwan in Bengal, they received huge amount from the treasury of Nawabs. Later, they also concentrated towards the farming agriculturist class, and they acquired money in the form of taxes. Now, the third option they had was crops for Europe. The crops which had heavy demand in European market, those were facilitated in India. After successful implementation of revenue policies, British decided to grow crops that Europe required. In late 18th century, company expand cultivation of opium and indigo. Opium is a kind of drugs, and indigo tree which produce a kind of rich blue color. This was facilitated. British forced cultivators to produce other crops like jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in UP, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and rice in Madras. In fact, everything that we see around us have a history. Even the colors have history. Kalamkari print, which was manufactured in Andhra Pradesh by local weavers, and Morris print, which was designed by William Morris, who was an English poet and artist. Both used a rich blue color produced from indigo plant. Indigo is a blue color dye commonly used in 19th century and had high demand in European market. India was the largest exporter of indigo. It is unique because it produces rich blue color and grow in tropical region. We know tropical region is a region from equator to tropics, from 0 degree till 23 degrees from north hemisphere and in the south hemisphere. So this indigo grows better in the tropical environment. Price of indigo was very high in Europe since small amount of indigo reached there. Since European cloth merchants had to depend upon oud. Oud, this was a tree grown in temperate region above the tropical region to make violet and blue dyes. Italy, France, Germany, Britain, these were some of the countries of Europe which depend on the oud to obtain the color. But this produced dull, light and pale color and could not stand with the competition to that of indigo. European cloth dyers preferred indigo. Oud producers worried of growing competition and pressurized their governments to ban indigo. But later, the ban odds lifted. European countries started growing indigo in their colonies. Example, France grow indigo in Saint Domingue in Caribbean island. Portuguese in Brazil, English in Jamaica, and Spain in Venezuela. Even in some of the areas of America, this cultivation was undertaken. By the end of 19th century, the demand for indigo still grew. After realizing the importance of indigo in the European market, Britain turned to India. Company expand indigo cultivation in India. Bengal indigo came to dominate the world market. Export increased from 30% to 95% by the beginning of 19th century. This attracted more investors and planters to Bengal, Bihar and nearing areas. Indigo cropping. Two systems of indigo cultivation were Niz and Rayati. Niz cultivation was done by planter either on own land or rented land. They employed laborers and slaves. Slaves were the forced labor who were bought from African continent. For this indigo plantation, planters required many plows, bulls, agriculture tools and instruments. For example, an area of 1 biga, that is 1/3 of the acre, required 2 plows. And if they wanted to do the cultivation in 1000 biga land, then they required 2000 bulls, which was very difficult to get it. Thus, these planters had a problem in purchase and maintenance. The second is Rayati system. In this, cultivation by Rayat was done on planters' land. Planters forced the Rayats to sign a contract called Satta. Most of the time, they pressurized village headmen to sign this agreement on behalf of the Rayats. Rayats, peasants, were given cash advances as a loan at a low rate of interest to produce indigo. Planters provided seeds, drills, tools, while cultivators prepared soil, till, sow seeds, and look after the crops. Finally, prepared indigo went to the factories. Overall, Rayati system seems to be Rayat friendly and simple, but once the harvest delivered to the planters, Rayats were given new loans that added problems to the Rayats. In fact, the cycle of loan was continued and it was never ending. Their harvest was purchased at very low prices. Planters insisted Rayats to cultivate indigo on the best land. Even indigo plantation created a deep root system which had exhausted the land fertility. Let's see the process involved in indigo production. Indigo factories were set up near the indigo plantation. Usually, there were 3 or 4 vats. Vats are fermentation vessels or storage vessels needed to produce the dye. In the first vat, plants were boiled, rotten part was removed, and obtained water is drained into the second vat. In second vat, there was a vat beater who stirred the solution with big paddle by standing inside the vat for more than 8 hours. A person who beat the vat was also called vat beater. Thus, the fermentation or processing work was tedious. Later, limestone was added and color changes from green to blue. The flakes and muddy sediments settled at the bottom and are taken separately and crushed. Cleared liquid is moved into third vat and the dye is obtained. Indigo cultivation was very much profitable to the planters and the company since they were earning huge profit from this business. But the fermentation process being tedious, which was non-profitable for the ryots, and they were exploited, ryots rose in revolt against the planters. They did not pay the rent. They attacked planters and boycott against the Gomastas who were the agents in plantation. Finally, local people were supported by the village headmen and jamindars. Thus, people's rebellion got power and momentum. British were shrewd in handling the situation arrived, and they adopted precautionary measure. They don't wanted any more rebellion which will hamper the rule of British in India after the rebellion of 1857. The magistrate Eden issued notice stating ryots will not be compelled to sign satta or the contract agreement. He also said Queen Victoria declared that indigo need not be sown in India or the Bengal. But same time government used military to protect the conditions of planters. Commission held planters guilty and asked to continue contract sattas but can be refused in future. Let's see what happened after the revolt. Indigo production was collapsed in Bengal, but planters shifted their operation of cultivating indigo to Bihar. With the discovery of synthetic dye was a chemical dye which was replaced to the natural dye in late 19th century. Thus, indigo business of real indigo was affected very badly. During same time, Mahatma Gandhi returned from South Africa and he visited Champaran, a place in Bihar. This gave boost to the Blue Rebellion. This movement is remarkable since it strengthened the Indian national movement to fight against oppressive British rule in India. This is all about our lesson ruling the countryside. We studied how British became master of Bengal and later on they got mastery over other provinces and they received enormous wealth from Indian territory. Later on, they did not stop from gaining the wealth from the provinces. They concentrated their attention on the revenue policies. They implemented several revenue policies and collected huge revenue for the company. After that, they also concentrated on cropping in India, which was in high demand in Europe. And thus, we understand how they exploited not only the Indian economy, but Indian political system, social system, and the cultural structure over here. So this is all about our lesson, ruling the countryside. So, thank you very much and stay tuned for the next class. Bye-bye.